By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, back to classes. Schools to reopen tomorrow under opposition from teachers' unions, while the epidemiology chief believes UK adding Sri Lanka to its travel corridor is a seal of approval.
And this implies that United Kingdom considers Sri Lanka as a safe place.
Some respite. Several police areas to be brought out of isolation tomorrow morning. Anybody's guess. Parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin denies knowledge of terrorists using his sister's house and insists that the Easter attacks is a conspiracy of a powerful country. Final journey. The Ramanya sect appoints a new chief prelate as Most Venerable Napana Pemasiritera departs the mortal realm. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Sunday, the 22nd of November, 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
නව sunlight sakura දැන් දික්කල් පවතින sakura මල් සුවඳින්.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamike Kanaka. Let's start with your local stories by taking a look at the epidemic situation. Now, Sri Lanka's epidemiology chief believes that the country being added to UK travel corridor shows the UK government's confidence that Sri Lanka is safe. The country still have over 5,500 active COVID-19 cases and also confirmed 9 coronavirus-related deaths last evening. Though it is the island's highest single-day death toll, all fatalities had not occurred on the same day. Now, in the meantime, the expert committee which was appointed to examine the methods of disposing the remains of COVID-19 dead has requested the Secretary to the Ministry of Health to stick with cremations until the final report is submitted.
In the recent weeks, the Colombo district was labelled as the new COVID-19 hotspot as it continued to record more infections than in other districts. The serious nature of reality was made further evident late last evening with the confirmation of 9 coronavirus-related deaths, all of them from the Colombo district. It is the highest single-day deaths recorded in the island to date, with the previous number being 5. With the 9 deaths confirmed last evening, Sri Lanka's COVID-19 death toll has risen to 83. As it was with many previous mortalities, most of the victims had suffered from underlying health conditions such as high blood pressure, heart disease and diabetes. Chief epidemiologist at the epidemiology unit, Dr. Sudat Samaravira, however, offered as an explanation as to why such a spike in deaths was recorded in one day.
Yesterday we reported 9 deaths, but all these 9 deaths were not occurred yesterday itself, because sometimes people are brought to the hospital after found dead in home, or that they might die on admission to the hospital. So because of that, sometimes PCR sampling will be taken after the death occurred, so that it will take some time to results come. Because of that, to declare the cause of death will take some time. Out of the 9 we reported, only 4 deaths occurred yesterday itself, and another 4 deaths occurred on November 20th, and 1 death occurred on November 19th. What we are reporting daily as deaths are not occurring on the same day, that it may vary for 1 or 2 days additionally.
In the meantime, 491 COVID-19 infections were detected during the course of yesterday in the island. Keeping with the recent pattern, Colombo district recorded the bulk of it with 292. Meanwhile, 87 infections were found from the Gampha district, while 17 were identified from Kurunegala. What's more, 11 infections were confirmed from Kaluthara, 7 from Kandy, 5 from Ratnapura, 4 from Gaul, and 3 from the Nuwarele district yesterday. The district of Anuradhapura, Puttalam, Badulla, Kegaul and Matale meanwhile recorded a single infection each. In addition, 60 other cases were also identified yesterday. They include those whose addresses cannot be confirmed, as well as foreign arrivals. In the meantime, the COVID-19 infected woman who escaped the infectious diseases hospital in Mulla area on Thursday evening was found last night from the area of Hidurangala located along the Kiriyalla Ahaliyagoda road. Following her arrest by the police, the health authorities clad her in personal protective equipment. She was then taken to the Galayalla quarantine centre in Polonnaruwa. As things stand, the island's total number of coronavirus recoveries is at 14,609 after seeing 479 patients leaving hospital today. It leaves 5,794 patients still under treatment. It is in this backdrop that the UK government has added Sri Lanka to its travel corridor, which renders the quarantine of Sri Lankans travelling to England unnecessary.
The United Kingdom has lifted any requirement for self-quarantine for 14 days on arrival to the country if a person coming from Sri Lanka. If anybody going to UK after 21st of November, they need not to self-quarantine. Otherwise, any person who is coming to the United Kingdom needs to go straight away to where they are living from the airport and should be self-isolated for 14 days. So this restriction for Sri Lanka has been lifted, and this implies that United Kingdom considers Sri Lanka as a safe place and that it is very unlikely if a person coming from Sri Lanka to have COVID-19. So this is a very good sign about our country.
Safeguard hand sanitizer නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නීරෝගිමත් දිවියකට ලංකාවේ පළමු වරට හඳුන්වා දෙන මැලිබන් වෙජි ක්‍රැකර්
Crunchy veggie.
Schools are all set to reopen tomorrow except for those in the Western Province and in isolated areas. But there is pushback from teachers' unions, which say that sending children back to school exposes them to risk of contracting the virus and calls for postponement. Only grades 6 to 13 will return to classes tomorrow. Meanwhile, several areas in the Colombo district will be brought out of isolation tomorrow morning, along with 2 police areas in the Gampha district, bringing some respite to people in those areas.
Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavinda Silva, confirmed today that the status of isolation imposed on the areas of Borella, Vallampitiya, Fort and Slave Island in the Colombo district will be lifted at 5 a.m. tomorrow. That said, Gramaniladara Division of Vanathamulla in the Borella police area and the Vayakanda Gramaniladara Division in the Slave Island police area, however, will remain isolated until further notice. What's more, it has also been decided to keep the rest of the 13 isolated areas in the Colombo district as it is. In the meantime, in the Gampha district, the 2 police areas of Jayala and Kadawatha too will be brought out of isolation at 5 a.m. tomorrow. But the remaining 5 police areas under isolation in the district will continue to be isolated. In the Kaluthara district, 7 Gramaniladara divisions in the Bandaragama police area, namely Bogahavatta, Bamunumulla Muslim area, Kiriman Tudava, Koravala, Atulgama West and Galaha Mandia are also under isolation. In the meantime, schools across the country will reopen for the 3rd term from tomorrow. However, it will be limited to grades 6 to 13. As such, various school premises were disinfected today in preparation for tomorrow's reopening. Though the government is keen to see students return to schools, various teachers' unions and associations are unhappy with schools being reopened tomorrow. They say that it cannot be ensured that children adhere to social distancing within school premises. They also claim that teachers and principals cannot be made to bear the responsibility of attending to possible COVID-19 infected students, as it is the job of the health sector. Whilst insisting that the government should formulate a better plan for schools reopening, some of them believe reopening should be held off until January. In the meantime, Governor of the Northwestern Province says that it has been decided to postpone the reopening of all schools in Kurunagalam. Meanwhile, the health authorities had this to say about the safety protocols that should be adhered with the reopening of schools tomorrow.
There is a very big responsibility set upon parents, then the academic staff, principals, and also non-academic staff of schools, and also the children, in order to not to introduce COVID-19 into schools and not to spread within schools. If somebody, even it could be a student or it could be a staff of the school, if having COVID-19 like symptoms, fever, sore throat, cough and cold and difficulty in breathing, they should not attend school. And also if somebody develop these symptoms during the school hours, they should immediately isolate themselves from the others and should seek medical care or should go back to home for resting. And also that children, when they are leaving home to school, should wash their hands with soap and water and should wear a face mask properly. And children, when they are traveling, also should wear face mask. When they are entering the school and also when leaving the school, should not get crowded at gates. And in the school, it is necessary to wear the face mask as much as possible at all the possible times. And also they should maintain physical distance at whenever possible within the school as well as when traveling from home to school as well as from school to home.
පොලිසිය අපේ කාර්යභාරය හැටියට අපි අඳුරගෙන තියෙන්නේ මෙහිදී මේ පාසල් ළමුන් ප්‍රවාහනය කරන ප්‍රවාහන මාධ්‍යයන් පිළිබඳව ඒ පාසල් බස් රථ වෙන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම නැත්නම් පාසල් වෑන් රථ වෙන්න පුළුවන් නැත්නම් වෙනත් පුද්ගලික වාහන ත්‍රිරෝද රථ වෙන්න පුළුවන් මෙන්න මේ කාරණා ගැන තමයි විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි අවධානය යොමු කරන්නේ.
The Department of Railways meanwhile say that arrangements have been made to operate special office trains from tomorrow. However, the trains will bypass railway stations in isolated areas. The trains will be operated under strict health guidelines issued by the government.
Now, a new chief prelate was appointed to the Ramanya sect today, with its working committee choosing Most Venerable Makulavi Vimalathera for the position. The post was vacated, with the passing of Most Venerable Napana Pemasiri Thera last week. The late Thera's final rites were performed late in the afternoon under full state honours today.
Chief Prelate of the Ramanya sect, Most Venerable Napana Premasiri Thera, passed away on the 17th. The late Chief Prelate's remains were kept at the Hirikkaduwa Sri Vidyasagara Pirivena in Manikhinna for public respects, and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa too paid his last respects to the late Thera this morning. In the meantime, the working committee to the Ramanya sect convened this morning at the Central Province Provincial Council auditorium to appoint a new Chief Prelate. It is the norm to appoint a new chief prelate prior to the final rites of the predecessor is performed. During the proceedings, Most Venerable Deputy Chief Prelate Makulave Vimalathera was appointed as the new chief prelate of the Ramanya sect. Born on the 25th of August in 1948 in the area of Galagamuwa in Kurunegala, the Thera took up the robe in 1960 and was ordained on the 22nd of July 1969. He had previously held the title of Judicial Chief Prelate of the Ramanya sect and has been awarded the honorary title Agamaha Pandita. Following today's appointment, the Most Venerable Makulave Vimalathera became the 14th Chief Prelate of the Ramanya sect. In the meantime, the remains of the late Most Venerable Napana Premasiri Thera was escorted to the SWRD Bandaranaike school grounds for the final rites to be performed. The funeral was conducted with full state honours while adhering to the health and safety protocols at 2 p.m. with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in attendance.
රට සුරකීමේ සෑම උත්සාහයකටම අපේ ගෞරවනීය නායක මාහිමිපාණන් වහන්සේ අප්‍රතිහත ධෛර්යය තුලින් ඒ ශක්තිය ලබා දුන්නා.
අප මහා නායක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේගේ අපවත් වීම සමාජයට වගේම මටත් පෞද්ගලික වූ මහා පාඩුවක් ලෙස මම සලකනවා. උන්වහන්සේගේ ආදාහන පූජෝත්සවය පූර්ණ රාජ්‍ය ගෞරව සහිතව පැවැත්වීමට ලැබීම වටිනා ශාසනික යුතුයකමක් ඉටු කරන අවස්ථාවක් හැටියටයි මම සලකන්නේ. මහානායක හාමුදුරුවෝ පිළිබඳව රාජ්‍ය නායකයා හැටියටත් මා තුළ තිබුණේ අසීමිත ගෞරවය. උන්වහන්සේ අඩුවෙන් කතා කළේ එය මිතභානී ගුණයයි. මහානායක හාමුදුරුවෝ භාෂා කීපයක් ප්‍රගුණ කොට තිබුණු නිසා තේරවාදී දාමේ පණිවුඩය ලෝකයට ගෙන යන්නට උන්වහන්සේට හැකි වුණා. අපවත් වී වදාළ අතිපූජනීය නාපාන ප්‍රේමසිරි මහා නාහිමිපාණන් වහන්සේට අජරාමර නිවන් සුවපත් වේවායි මා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
The remains of the late Chief Prelate of the Ramanya sect was placed in the funeral pyre following religious observances.
We will see you once more after this break. Stay with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Easter Sunday bombers had used a house owned by parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin's sister in Canada as a safe house, but the MP claims to have had no knowledge of it. Testifying before the Presidential Commission probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks, the MP also claimed that a powerful nation is behind the heinous massacre of last year, adding that it is a conspiracy launched to incite extremism in Sri Lanka. Remanded parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin gave evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks for a second day yesterday via video link from the Velikada prison. During the proceedings, the senior state counsel asked the MP, quote, "An investigation conducted on information pertaining to members of FATO, which is a proscribed organisation in Turkey operating businesses in Sri Lanka, was halted, with the revelation of 2 Sri Lankan cabinet ministers also being linked. As per the evidence heard before the Commission, one of them is you. Did you influence those investigations?" Unquote. In reply, MP Badiuddin rejected the claim as untrue and insisted that he does not have any links with any person or organisation in Turkey, adding that he did not exert influence either. The senior state counsel then asked the witness whether he is aware that the suicide bomber had used a house owned by the parliamentarian's sister in Canada as a safe house. MP Badiuddin responded, quote, "It was only given on rental basis. It was after the attacks that I came to know the bombers had stayed there." Unquote. The chairman of the commission then inquired from the witness whether he had actually been to the house in question, which Badiuddin denied. The chairman of the commission also asked the MP whether his brother, Riaj Badiuddin, was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department at any stage. The witness replied, quote, "Yes. What was carried by media was that Cinnamon Grand attacker Inshaf Ahmed had made 7 telephone calls to my brother. What my brother said was that relief was sought with regards to the government suspending copper exports. I don't know whether that was discussed on all 7 occasions." Unquote. Then the commission told the witness, quote, "Though you say that you never helped Inshaf Ahmed obtain copper, a large amount, around 25,000 kilograms of copper, had been issued to Ibrahim's son's company than any other company. You also signed for Inshaf's marriage. With that being the case, what would you say if it is put to you that though you may not have supported them directly, you did support the bombers indirectly?" Unquote. MP Badiuddin replied that he rejects the claim and insisted that he had never helped any of the Ibrahim brothers. A commission member then asked the parliamentarian, quote, "You said that you were in a refugee camp after you and others were expelled from the north by the LTTE. With that being the case, how did you come into politics and become so wealthy?" Unquote. The MP replied that one doesn't have to beg just because of being a refugee and that he could do business. The commission member then asked, quote, "What I ask is that didn't you use privileges of the ministerial positions you held and the ministries to develop your businesses and your family's businesses?" Unquote. To that, the MP said that he has never used such privileges to develop his businesses, and as a parliamentarian since 2001, he has declared his assets and liabilities each year. Then, a commission member told the witness that he is not accused of fraud, but what the commission is asking is that how he managed to amass such wealth after being in a refugee camp. To this, Badiuddin replied with some irritation, saying, quote, "There is no link between assets and the Easter attacks. What you ask is only good to defame my character. Investigate the Easter attacks." An officer of the TID had given evidence pertaining to the attacks, saying that Zahran noted 13 reasons for the attack. Look into that. This attack is a conspiracy launched by a powerful country using its agents to incite extremism in this country. So I hope this commission will investigate those matters." Unquote. We will see you shortly. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, in a year in which the COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc with the Sri Lankan economy, many industries kept a keen eye for positive measures to be proposed via the Budget 2021. One such industry was the tea sector. In our segment, Budget Expectations, the Tea Exporters Association stated that what they wish for is an extension to the ESC recovery period from 3 years to 5 years and an increase in the export credit rating facilities. Now that the contents of the budget is revealed, they say that none of their expectations have been realised and calls for clarification to be offered on certain proposals put forward by the Budget 2021.
Sri Lankan tea is a commodity that is well known and loved by both the local and international community. Some of Sri Lanka's major tea export destinations have been Turkey, Iraq and Russia for 3 consecutive years. From January to September this year, the country managed to produce 201,130 tons of tea despite the challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. In any case, Sri Lanka's tea industry is in some trouble, with yearly production seeing a decline over the past years, mainly due to the lack of replanting. Though the industry weathered the coronavirus shocks, it was hopeful of some positive moves which would benefit the industry via the budget. During last year's budget, the government allocated 400 million rupees under the National Export Strategy and also a further allocation of 250 million rupees for the implementation of the National Export Strategy as a measure to promote export market access. The tea sector also exported the highest value of produce from the island last year, with the total quantity amounting up to 292,657 tons. As the Budget Proposal 2021 was looming in the horizon, the tea exporters had their own wish list. Among them was an increase in export credit rating facilities and an extension of the economic service charge recovery period. So how did their wish list stack up against what was provided by the Budget Proposal 2021? While speaking to the Tea Exporters Association, it became apparent that their expectations are unrealized.
Our expectation on the budget was the extension of the ESC recovery period from 3 years to 5 years, but unfortunately it has not been addressed at this budget. And the second thing was in order to make an export-driven economy, we wanted the government to try and strengthen the export credit facilities. To this end, there has been a proposal made by the government that the insurance charge of 1% on export turnover has been proposed to be paid to the Sri Lanka Export Credit Insurance. To this effect, we are looking at certain clarification from our secretaries. One other concern of the exporters is the insurance charge of 0.25% on the turnover for companies who have more than 50 employees. These are some of the concerns which we have with regards to the tea exports.
Now, with a fresh week set to commence at the Colombo Stock Exchange from tomorrow, turnover levels less than 2 billion rupees are expected, with a slowness in the overall index. Sri Lankan shares closed 0.4% higher last Friday, helped by advances in stocks of consumer staples companies. Now, let's take a look at what we can expect in the market in the coming week.
In the upcoming week, we feel that there could be a bit of slowness in the overall index. With it, turnover levels like to be less than around 2 billion rupees because of the volatility in the index, similar to what we have seen in the last week. So the shift into blue chip counters is likely to continue, mainly because of the high earning prospects in these counters in the coming new year 2021. We are likely to see accumulation in these sort of counters, so the shift into blue chip counters is likely to continue in the upcoming week as well.
Pfizer has applied to US health regulators for emergency use authorization of its COVID-19 vaccine. The application to the US Food and Drug Administration comes just days after Pfizer and German partner reported final trial results that showed the vaccine was 95% effective in preventing COVID-19 with no major safety concerns. Pfizer Chief Executive Officer says that the company expects to produce globally up to 50 million doses in 2020 and up to 1.3 billion doses by the end of 2021.
It is with great pride and joy and even a little relief. But I can say that our request for emergency use authorization for our COVID-19 vaccine is now in the FDA's hands. This is a historic day for science and for all of us. It took just 248 days to get from the day we announced our plans to collaborate with BioNTech to our FDA submission date. Today, we were able to submit a very robust dataset that we believe meets and in many cases exceeds the FDA's high standards. Our vaccine candidate has demonstrated efficacy of 95% against COVID-19 with no serious safety concerns observed to date. Of course, the journey is not yet complete. In addition to today's submissions to the FDA, we have already initiated rolling submissions in Australia, Canada, Europe, Japan, and the UK, and we plan to submit immediately to other regulatory authorities around the world. Based on current projections, we expect to produce globally up to 50 million doses in 2020 and up to 1.3 billion doses by the end of 2021.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.